Start.
Awesome. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Poplar Grove Community Council, our monthly meeting. We're glad to have you here. My name is Daniel Tutau. I am the chair of the Community Council. Saying aloha from sunny Laie out here in Hawaii. I thought for the last meeting of the time that I'm here in Hawaii, next time we meet will be in August and I'll be there in person. But for now, I thought I'd say hi from the beach over here. We're glad to have you. I'd like to acknowledge all the other members of the council that are there. Maybe if you just want to shake your hand and say hi to everybody and introduce yourself real quick.
Jordan.
I'm Karen.
Diego. Bethany.
Peter.
Yep.
Great. And then we have Dan Potts also tuning in online.
I'm here.
Yeah. Great. Well, we're glad we have the technology to put us together here. We will be doing a little bit out of order in terms of having one of our presenters go at the top. But to start off, we always like to see, do we have any of the firefighters with us today?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Well, so then we'll go ahead and we have our we always like to acknowledge our firemen that are always being able to connect us with things that are going on that are important. But we'd like to move on to the police report and our special guest. I'd like to turn over the time.
Brett.
I'll just get going. It's good to be with all of you. By the way, when I was growing up, we lived in a small town in southern Utah, but we had peacocks for a while. We had a home behind our home we would rent out, and peacocks would go up on top of it every morning. So I haven't heard peacock in a lot of years. And I noticed there was a peacock on the is there some connection to peacock and Poplar Grove?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
They wander around freely.
Really?
Yes.
They're just, yeah.
They own the fence. Okay, well, maybe you don't like peacock. I don't know, but I mean,
We love them.
You love them, okay?
Yeah, we've identified with them, so.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, we had them. There were two of them in our backyard, and they get up and wake me up every morning. Yeah, they do. They're gonna shout out of bed. It's good to be with all of you. I'm glad for the opportunity to come down and spend a few minutes with you. We've been doing a lot of work over here on the west side, and you may have some questions about that. But just know that as your new police chief, we are going to prioritize public safety on the west side of Salt Lake City, as we are across the city. But hopefully you're seeing good activity over here from our police officers. Amanda Fluff, of course, is over the Pioneer Division, which this area encompasses. But just glad to be here with all of you. Just for background, I spent 20 years at the Utah Department of Public Safety, retiring in 2021. I left and thought I was going to be done with public service and went to the private sector and had intentions to stay there. And then I was asked to come back to the government in 2023 to the Department of Corrections. 2 years as the executive director there at the Department of Corrections. It was an amazing experience working with our corrections officers and trying to help individuals who made some serious mistakes in their lives prepare to come back to our community. It's 96% or more come back to our community. So that was a really awesome opportunity. I learned a lot. I think it's going to help me in my new role here as the police chief and work on resolving the root cause issues of a lot of the crime, homelessness, addiction, mental health issues that we're seeing on the streets. But I'm really open to just questions. And I don't know if there's certain questions you have. I don't really have a prepared presentation. But I can tell you two big initiatives that we have going on just to kick it off is we did close a portion of the Jordan River Trail back 2 months now. Yeah. About 2 months ago. What was happening by that elementary school was back in elementary was just really unacceptable. If I had kids there, I'd probably be the loudest community member here on the west side if I lived here on what was happening by our elementary school. So the mayor went out to that school as well. We decided to close a portion of that trail. It's getting repaired anyway right now and move to the other side of the river. So it's a perfect time to do it. And with that, we know there's potentially going to be some displacement from that effort up north, and so you may be feeling some of that now, so that's, I'm sure, something you might want to talk about. Appreciate the fact of Oliver back here, and all the good work you guys with all of you. But that's why we're here, is to listen to what your concerns are. Is it better than 2 months ago? Is it worse for you all 2 months ago? We'll do it back to talk about.
So I rode on my bike on the trail a couple weeks ago, and from here all the way up to the Confluence garden, and I only saw one person. So things are working. I had a friend ask me yesterday, where are people going? And so that is my question. Where are those folks going?
We have some heat maps that we're tracking on a weekly basis on homeless transient related calls across the city. We do know when we close, you can look at the heat map, and I don't have it here with me today, but we looked at the heat map prior to the Jordan River closure and operation. It was all hot, red and yellow down the Jordan River. Once we closed it, it really moved off. We have a sustained issue at North Temple and Redwood Road by the 7-Eleven and the KFC. That is a tough situation.
That KFC is closed.
It's closed, and we have people that are basically squatting on the property. We move them off, they squat. And then 800 West in North Temple is another really hot spot for drug dealing. So some of them may be homeless, but this is not a homeless problem. It's going on. This is a crime problem. I'm trying to articulate the difference. I think you all know that better than any of us. That's a crime problem. We're working on it. We did have some movement over to Liberty Park, close the trail, and saw the hot spots kind of popping over there. Now, we don't know if that's because we're encouraging people to call us and report things, so that's part of the reason, but we know there was some movement over there. We put officers in Liberty Park in the following week, when we saw the hot spot pop up, and we seen them move south down to Fairmont Park, and we seen them move west back toward the city or the ballpark district. So we do know there's some movement when we do these operations. We're gonna have to stay on top of it. But the other thing that we're really working on right now is working with the courts and the jails on individuals who are high utilizers or frequent flyers, the ones that we keep arresting and putting in jail and we're citing, and they just get, put out. Their case gets, they don't show up for their court appearance. They go to warrant, we do it again, and we've identified 50 individuals that are taking up. And it's mainly the misdemeanor population that's trespassing, doing drugs, camping, doing some of these, we call them quality of life type crimes that are just aggravating all of us in the community. Those 50 people, a lot of them have serious mental illness. A lot of them have addictions. A lot of them do have criminogenic behaviors, or a combination of all of that. But we're trying to work with the courts to resolve their issues more long term and get them off the street and keep them off the street, because they're impacting all of the criminal justice system disproportionately. Like, if we could get these 50 away off the streets and keep them off the streets, it would help the courts, it would help the officers, it would especially help you as residents. So that's something that we're working on. I was just up at a meeting at the state capitol on this issue. I had Governor Cox out here today on the west side, and we went out into the northwest quadrant along North Temple. So Governor Cox today saw firsthand what our officers are up against, which are up against as residents here. He's all in. He's committed to helping us from a policy perspective and keeping some pressure on other parts of the criminal justice system to help deliver results. Our officers are working very, very hard. Like, when you look at this jail statistics, they're above and beyond the agency in their activity, trying to help you in the community. So my complete respect to them. It's so frustrating when they keep, just like you all feel, the same issue over and over. So we're not going to quit. We're going to keep at it. We're going to engage the other parts of the criminal justice system. And we're going to work hard, and it's not going to be an overnight process, but we want to continue the progress. We want to keep the Jordan River Trail like it is, and then move to these other spots and start working on them. So it isn't coming upon all of us to work together. So your calls in, your emails in are really important for us. And I'm also talking to the department about being very customer service oriented, responsive. So we're looking at how we can be more responsive when things come in, more connection. But I know that over here on the Pioneer Precinct, our officers are doing a really good job with that. We'll just keep it up. Question or comment?
Yeah, I got a question. What do you want to do, or what can be done with these people that, they're homeless, but they live in their campers?
Yeah, the RVs.
I mean, it's gotten bad enough to where the neighborhood where I'm at, are coming out and getting them out of the alley with baseball bats and anything else. I mean, they're stealing in people's backyards.
So we've seen this year, a couple things are happening as we move, as we go into these areas and these people move around. We're seeing residential burglaries up this year in the city. We're kind of destabilizing the population a little bit, the transient population, homeless population. So that's something that we're seeing, is some residential burglaries go up. Also, the price of fentanyl, we were just in a meeting, is now, it used to be $1 or $2 a pill. It's now anywhere from $8 to $10 a pill. A lot of that has to do with less activity on the border, but also our officers, our partners, the Department of Public Safety really hit the fentanyl and methamphetamine hard. But when the price goes up, people get desperate for money, and so we're seeing some of that. So that's an issue that we've got to work on. With respect to the RVs, we took Governor Cox over there today, but we have, what was the officer's name that's working on that?
Carter Anderson.
You want to talk a little bit about what Carter's
Absolutely.
doing, some of what he's proposing? The RV issue, I learned something new today on the RV issue, and I'll just say that once they're towed, the tow companies hold them like they're supposed to, and then typically if it's a car of value, they can sell it. But these RVs are actually expensive and take a lot of room, and they're expensive to destroy. So they're putting them back on KSL for $1. People are going back and buying them, and then year after year, we see more RVs coming in, so.
Half of them are falling apart.
Well, and that's, you know, and we talked today about legislation maybe to bring the safety inspection back on RVs as a possibility, just on RVs only. We're never gonna get the safety inspection back, or the legislature's not gonna do it, so, but maybe for RVs, or maybe we figure out a solution. But do you wanna talk a little about what he's doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So Carter Anderson is one of the West Side officers, and he's chosen to specifically focus on the RVs. He's not the only one. We have a lot of officers that are just as concerned about it as you are. So last week he towed 24 RVs and impounded. So they took them to a lot. They keep them there, like the chief said, until they can get a lien. If they are not street worthy and we can get them destroyed, compliance is helping us with that. But very few of them are actually being destroyed. It's very costly project to get them.
I see one, 3 days ago, across the street by the riverside. He was there for, I think it was longer than that. He was there for about 2 days. Then he moved it down the street. Today I come home from the pistol range. I happen to drive by and he's parked in front of my house.
So that's the difficulty with the RV, because anybody, whether it's an RV or your vehicle or your neighbor's vehicle, they can park on a public road for up to 48 hours. So if we get notified and we send compliance by to mark the tires, that 48 hours starts then.
Yeah, but
And then we can start doing citations or impounding if it needs.
But compliance doesn't wanna take the time to come down and help you guys on the situation.
Yeah, they're a little strapped, but compliance created a specific team just to help us with the RV because it becomes such a problem. So we have 2 specific people assigned to it. And then we work with them on a weekly basis to try and impound those that aren't supposed to be on the streets.
Okay.
And the health department is also helping us with that. They do weekly EINs all over the city and throughout the county to help us clean up the RV issues. So
Then now another
Or
part.
could I just add something
Yeah.
that on the RVs, we're looking at the camping ordinance in the city, and we're looking to include camping in an RV. RVs aren't explicit, so that can also help with some enforcement. If we have people living in an RV in a location for a while, again.
then we can enforce it as a camp and not have to wait the 48 hours for the parking.
And then on the Arapahoe and 9th West and that duplex. There's a guy there, he's got plastic tents up. He's got 3 RVs that he's working on and people are living in it. As of yesterday, last night, he had 14 cars that he's working on. He's got no license, business license. And compliance doesn't want to do anything with him.
we can start looking at it. We grab or do the address up and detect Volver and start taking a look at it.
Question here, or
What
comment?
if, it's one thing to park, what if someone's setting out and got their generators going and all that stuff?
That's camping,
That's
that's,
camping.
that's what we need to get into the ordinance, which we'll be proposing. So the mayor's office will be proposing something to the city council, probably, the next couple of months.
Yeah, there's one parked in front of my house right now, generators running all day.
Unfortunately, when the city created the ordinance, they didn't really anticipate that RVs would be used the way they're being used in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So we really need an ordinance, revision or amendment so we can address it properly.
That would be frustrating. That'd be
Oh, it
very
sucks.
frustrating,
It does.
yeah, that'd be very frustrating.
And then the next thing that happened besides the assault I told you Monday is a couple of weeks ago, I was going to put my bike on the bus. And pulled the rack down and went to put my bike on. And somebody that was either withdrawing from drugs or something come up and says, I'm taking your bike. And started trying to take my bike off of the rack and the bus driver's honking at him. I had to hit him with the front tire of my bike. They have pictures of him. Took the transit police. This is at the main hub. Salt Lake Central. This is what's happening right downtown. We're at the Salt Lake Central.
Right, this is where people are.
That people are trying to take people's stuff, probably because the bills went up to $8 to $10, like you said, the fentanyl pills, so they're trying to get something to pay for it with. And so it took the transit police 30 minutes to get there. And the transit police informed me today that even though they got a picture of the guy, they can't find him, so they can arrest him. So that guy's out on the street,
Doing it again.
just like this guy that assaulted me Monday. They're not able to respond quickly enough to apprehend these people because I guess you guys don't have the resources.
Well, and even when we do apprehend them and put them in jail, it's likely they'll be out pretty quick, but that's. The state legislature ordered an audit on the kind of the issues going on down here. So they're looking into how we do our operations, Salt Lake City Police Department. They're looking at the district attorney's office. They're looking at the county jail. And now they're looking at the courts. And now they're even looking at service providers to say, what is working and what is not working. What's not working is what you're saying. Like, we have to be able to get these people, get them in and get them jailed long enough to get them sobered up to then bring the resources and treatment. And then we have to create communities for these individuals. You know, a lot of them will go through treatment. They'll go through a treatment program for 90 days or 6 months. But if they're just then released back to the community without a support structure around them, they're just going to fall back into their old habits, right? If they come back to their old neighborhood or their old friends, even if they've been sober for 90 days or 6 months. So we've got to create communities around these individuals. Once we do get them off the street, get them sobered up, get them treated, and create some community for them. And that's really where the conversation is, because, in the prison, we set up, and this was not my idea, this was 2 inmates' idea. They set up a therapeutic community that was led by the incarcerated individuals. They set the rules, they created the expectations, they enforced the rules. Our corrections officers were there working with them. But what happened was that they took ownership and helped one another to be productive and to succeed. And we had seriously mentally ill individuals that were in other parts of the prison that were getting in fights. We didn't put in maximum security, their mental health was declining, and these people had serious mental illness. We put them in that therapeutic community where the incarcerated individuals helped support them, and the violence went down, fights went down. And so when we do get help for these people, we've got to create communities of support for them. And that's, going to be all of us, all of us are going to have to play a role in that somehow. I mean, but especially those who've been through what they've been through, the peers, that is the most effective way to keep people off the streets. People that have been through it, have succeeded, and then helping others to succeed. It's a win-win. It's a win keeping these people clean and sober, and it's a win helping new people get clean and sober. So anyway, we're having a lot of those discussions at the policy level to try to address some of the longer systemic issues, but like none of this is happening overnight, but we're going to keep chipping away at it. But our role in the Salt Lake City Police Department is we are going to enforce the law. We're not going to allow drug use and drug dealing. We're going to enforce the law. And but we're gonna do it in a compassionate way, a respectful way, and we're gonna offer services as we do it, you know. I used to tell people, I worked down in downtown Salt Lake with the state, with the Department of Public Safety for a number of years, and used to tell the people, look, you know, I know you have an addiction, I know you have mental illness, but you can't break the law in front of me, and if you stick that needle in your arm in front of me, you don't leave me any choice but to take you in, because you're doing that. But if you want help before you do that, if you want help when you're being arrested, if you want help when you come back down here, we'll be here to try to help you connect to services, but we're going to enforce the law. But we're gonna do it in a way that's humane and empathetic and, you know, showing compassion.
We had a couple comments online as well.
Okay.
From Andrew, just that it is expensive. Use all the money appropriated, so there would need to be more there.
Yes.
And then new parking ordinance is being briefed with city council members the next couple of weeks before it gets transmitted for formal review. So
We're working on it.
city council is working towards it.
Thank you. Thanks for those comments, Andrew.
I think Dan's got his hand up. Yeah, Dan.
Yeah, Chief Red, a couple of years ago, we were in the black box over in Sorensen to a council type meeting. And I came in late and was second to the back row, and on the very back row is our chief of police, but I raised my hand early on to get, question answered. And finally, our Mayor Mendenhall called her, Potts, what do you want? She said all the way from the front of the room. And I said, and I stood up and turned around. And I looked straight at our chief of police and I said, I just want to live. I've almost been hit in our own crosswalk on 4th South twice walking my dog by your police officers. I said, I just want to live. Shouldn't we be operating by example or something like that? Could you speak to that just briefly, and if you've made any progress there?
Sure, yeah, so sure. I mean, we don't want to be hitting people, and if we're responsible,
It was bad.
we all make mistakes and we have accidents and so, but here's the thing. One of the things, I had a transition team come in and one of the things that we identified is the need to up our training even more. So one of those trainings that we need to do a little bit better with is emergency vehicle operations. One of the challenges in the state is there's one track out at the Utah National Guard to practice, to practice driving. And it's constantly booked out, and the National Guard is saying, hey, we need our property back. So the state is scrambling to figure out what we're going to do. But in the police department, we do need to continue to train our officers and remind them to drive safely. So that definitely is something that's been identified that we need to work on.
Well, yeah, and these weren't incidences, these weren't emergencies. No. These people were just driving. Both of these instances, the officers were driving recklessly. Had they turned a light on or siren, anything, but nope.
Well,
Just
it is emergency response, but it's talking, but in these trainings, we talk about driving safely and there's reminders. It's just something that we need to be cognizant of, make sure we're not distracted, make sure we're driving, with the laws and that we're not distracted.
But I'm carrying it to the next level. What I'm trying to say is, when you ask people around the neighborhood or anywhere on the west side, hey, what do you think of the professional driving of our Salt Lake City Police Department? And almost everybody just rolls their eyes. Nobody's coming to full stops. Nobody's always using their signals, et cetera, et cetera. I just think that we can do better. That's all.
No, that's a good insight, and we'll definitely communicate that back. And it's a good reminder for all of us. And I lived in St. George for a while, and we lived out kind of in the fields, Washington fields. And there was a community meeting once called because the residents were upset with the people who were driving fast. And one of the things the chief said is like, well, we're pulling you over to live out here. So I think that's a good reminder for us. Our station is right there. We need to make sure we're driving safely, and we'll definitely take that back to the Pioneer Precinct and make sure that we're setting a good example and being safe. So and it is a problem, not just in the Salt Lake City Police Department, but officers have a lot of things in their cars. They're getting radio calls. They've got an MDT computer screen. So we have to be extra vigilant and smart about what we're doing when we're driving. So those reminders are good. Thank you.
I think one way of pitching that may be a slow car looks like a patrolling car, right? A slow car looks like it's watching out, which is,
yeah,
it looks like I'm watching the neighborhood,
Yeah.
to muddle through the neighborhood is a good thing. I grew up on a military base and we had security, nuclear naval base, security, you can go anywhere. Every 10 minutes there was a police car.
Yeah.
It feels like that. It
Sets the tone.
Yeah, but it inhibits bad things, it reduces people from just doing things at any moment. Just to have that slow patrol.
A lot of our officers now in the department are, and this is not just applicable to Salt Lake City, but a lot of our law enforcement officers today are very young. And so it's just incumbent upon us to give these reminders, and that's a really good way to frame it. And I think Commander Fluff, you can make sure that it's covered in your lineup meetings, and we'll talk about it with all the commanders in our administrative meeting.
Do you find that you have enough diversion of programs? Like, do you have places to send people who want rehab or wants?
So it's interesting, we were just talking about this today, and there's differing opinions. Some say there's not enough resources, but when you talk to people in behavioral health that are good at it, there are places for people to go, and people do succeed at this program. But then if they go back to the old environment, and so what we were just talking about today is like, we need to look and see what really is, we need to look at outcomes and really be coordinated as a system. So I think the answer is no, there's not enough. And also, yes, we could do better with what we have. So, and so that's been my pitch to everyone is, let's get good with the resources we have. Let's take these high utilizers that I mentioned, these 50 individuals, let's get really good with them. And see, and then we'll be able to see what works. Let's put these people to the front of the line since they're taking most of the resources, put them to the front of the line, see what works. And then we can go back to the state legislature or to the city council and say, this is working because they were prioritized. This is where the bottleneck is. We need some more resources here, but we've got to focus on good outcomes of what we have. I think there's some room for improvement there.
One more question.
The state used to have funding with a program called Utah's 10-year plan to end chronic homelessness.
Yeah.
And all of this that you guys are talking about is, that was the idea,
Yep.
a housing first model, building all of this support around someone. And I thought there was a lot of success happening. It was when they built the Palmer Courts space, the Sunrise, Grace Mary Manor, all of these places have been built. They're getting all of these success stories. And it seems like that just fizzled away. Is there still the Utah 10-year plan to end chronic homelessness? Are people revisiting any of that?
I mean, there's differing opinions on housing first. We know having shelter definitely increases the odds of someone being successful, and we know affordable housing is a real issue here. And it needs to be coupled with wraparound services and resources, and then it needs to be coupled with the community for these people. One of the differences from 10 years ago, I think, is the drugs are just more powerful. These synthetics, the fentanyl, the meth that's being manufactured is just disastrous for individuals when they take it. And so there are more treatment beds than there were in 2017. There are more resources. The drugs are getting tough. They're bad.
So if someone did want to get clean and say today they decided I want to go in for treatment, are there beds available now? Could you get into a treatment?
It may take a little time and effort, but if you work hard enough, you can find some treatment beds. There's not enough of one for one out on the street, but yes, if you have the right relationships, the right coordination, you can work on it. Yeah. I think it's good. It's not perfect, but I think you can get people places if they want to. What we're experiencing on the street are people don't want to come off the street. They want to keep doing drugs, or they don't have confidence because they've been through programs and the programs didn't work and they're relapsing. So they're just like, forget it. It's too hard. So I think we're having some of that happening on the streets, but I say a comment, maybe or some insights.
Well, I was just wondering, do you refer them to like affordable and accessible like treatment facilities? Because like, Odyssey House and those are so expensive that these people that are already on the streets can't afford them.
I think for us in law enforcement, I think those are good questions for the broader system. I think in law enforcement for us, we really can do some basic things. Like we're putting out a flow chart to our officers. We're going to be rolling it out this week, but you have people who are homeless people who have mental crisis, people who have addiction or drug issues, and maybe someone who has physical injuries. What we're trying to create for our officers on the street is like, if you have someone who has a substance use problem that wants help, these are the couple places that you take them. Really, our role really should at some level end there. You know, and once we get them off the street to a place, you know, if they're getting arrested and put in jail, that's really kind of out of our hands. So I'm not sure I'm the perfect expert to talk about, you know, I think every individual is different, and depending on who's working the case, it's different. I think we need to create better pathways. So for us, we're saying, these are your 4 situations you will encounter as a police officer. These are your tools. And so, get them there. And then now we're working with the broader system to say, okay, now once they're there, let's not just kick them back to the street, you know, in a couple days. Like, let's keep them there and bring resources. I think there's room for improvement.
And Andrew brings up a point, the Odyssey House operates on a sliding fee scale, so if people are getting priced out, you can let the county know and rework that, he says, and so, and then we are behind in building, they haven't built housing in like 10 years. And so that may be something that needs to be brought back up, but it would need to come from meetings like this.
And the mayor has a good push to continue with building additional housing. I think the state is starting to work on that as well.
The state has dumped, the state has dumped money in, and the city's dumped money in the last couple of years, and there are units being built. Deeply affordable is definitely need more of that for sure.
Absolutely.
She has a question.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about what patrols are happening on the Jordan River Trail and what additional safety measures can be put in there? Because Jordan River Trail is like the only trail we have on the west side, and it feels unsafe. Like when I go running, unfortunately, I'm not a fast runner, and there's a lot of like isolated pockets where like there's so much substance abuse and people with mental health issues that it like doesn't even feel like a space that you can use in the daylight, let alone in like the evening or early morning hours.
So we are bringing to the council this week, I think, we're going to be presenting additional requests, not just from the police department, but from other city departments, but it will bring additional cameras in the future. And look, we can't get it all done at one time, but we're going to try to establish more cameras. We're thinking about lighting, we're thinking about cleaning the trail so there's more visibility in certain areas.
About like emergency.
The Jordan River squadron.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, so there is 12 officers that will be dedicated to green space in the city for patrol, and they'll primarily be focused on the Jordan River and then also the other parks. So that's happening. They're in the academy, started this week. All right, this week.
They'll be out in.
So they'll be out in October, so you should see, you know, a more dedicated patrol. I know parks, is it public lands has park rangers, so. We just have to keep at it. You know, the Jordan River for years and years is always been a challenge. But it got really bad and unacceptable, so we need to walk that back now. It's gonna take some time.
Well, and I would be more interested in like community solutions, right? Like even across the police department, can people take walks at lunch, you know, and are there like PT groups that are doing training that could do it on the Jordan River Trail? Because I think part of it too is just increasing foot traffic and making it feel safer.
And our academies do a lot of their runs along the trailway there as well. We do have overtime officers that are working the trail, both from DNR sponsored overtime and then the department overtime. And the bike unit that's down there working on afternoons as well on the trail. So we're out there, but we definitely need your eyes and ears to let us know like where you're seeing those specific pockets where people are hanging out. It is a park, it's a public space, so they can be there just like everyone else. Unless they're committing the crime, like the chief is talking about, that we can address. We just need to know about it.
Well, and to your point, yeah, we need to activate the spaces. And I always use the analogy, I grew up on a farm. So you can plow a field, but if you don't plant something in that field, the weeds are coming back, the problems are coming back. We've kind of plowed, we've done an initial plowing of that field. We do need the community to activate the space and to take some ownership in it. And of course, we'll be there with you as a police department as you do that. But if you're having events and getting things going, that is going to resolve the problem long term if you take the space over as residents.
Absolutely. We do community walk all during the.
Yeah. So organizing some things like out of community councils, talking to businesses, like, we're all in on that. It's the same thing, the same discussion's going on with Pioneer Park right now. You probably saw in the news, they're getting ready to build a building and activate it, because that's what's gonna ultimately resolve it long term.
So we've heard this story from many.
Well,
yes, right, but this is part of the course. We're gonna have more patrols, we're gonna have dedicated stuff, and sometimes it happens, sometimes you see it. And that activation isn't gonna happen until it's safe. She doesn't wanna run on the trail if it's unsafe. I don't wanna hang out there with my kid, it's unsafe. That's safety's gotta happen first. It's not just gonna magically go away. It's gonna 100%. Very strong armed. A year ago, a bunch of homeless people broke into our house and took everything out to the river over the course of 4 months. Everything. Photo albums, you name it. It's all out on the river. And we went and got it. We got armed and we went and took care of that ourselves. Because no one else is around. The person that stole the stuff called police and said that we
Stole their stuff.
that we were stealing their stuff. Wow. So it's pretty bad. And that happened a year ago, this meeting, I wasn't here, I was doing that. And it's just here, just a block away. So it's pretty bad for them to go in the house, smoke a little meth, eat all the ice cream, and then head out the door with all your stuff over the course of the few nights.
It's not acceptable.
No, and I don't. Last night, the night before last, someone came and removed the mirrors off of my truck. They wanted them, they used tools. I don't know, there's a lot of stuff that's going on. And I don't feel necessarily empowered by the police department in dealing with it. I have to go find that person first, myself, right? I can't depend on, no one's gonna help. I stopped someone from taking a catalytic converter off the same truck. I did it with steel pipe. That stopped him, never came back, and I welded up my catalytic converter. I have to take that onto myself because I don't depend on the police to take care of it. Last August, I freaked out over fentanyl pills found in the park when I'm trying to take my kid to the playground. That was it for me. Called the governor, called the mayor's office and screamed. I told the governor I wanted troops on the river. Do it for Texas. Why can't you do it for us? I did that every week. And then I said to the mayor's office, I'll police the park. I'll do it. Don't worry about it.
That's what gets action.
And, and that's fine. And I also threatened to start my own militia, police department. I can have my own because of the lack of that. Also, it's not just police, it's a lack, I wasn't blaming police. When the police are there, they take care of the job. Not necessarily there all the time. That's why I take care of the job. When it comes to judges letting people go, that's a problem, right? I want to make a list and say, look at these judges letting these multi-offenders back out, right? They have lots of, right? Here's the list. Here's their names. This is what they're doing. Don't reelect them. That sort of thing. But, so I know it's not just the police. The whole system is broken. And the only way I see results is when I go over there and threaten all those people to say, leave this park or I'll make you leave. And that's it. And they don't like it, but I'm willing to do that because the safety is that bad. Something I told the police, if something happens to my kid due to neglect from the city, letting that drug stuff happen, they camped out there all summer in that park. They burned the grass up with their fires. Nobody would do anything. Until that Adderall, or not Adderall, the fentanyl showed up on the ground. That's when we turned a corner. And I don't care anymore. Well, this is a lawless city. That's what Salt Lake City is. So, new sheriff, that's good. But I want to see the results pretty quick.
I sat in front of a group of formerly incarcerated when I took the Department of Corrections on, and I heard the same thing, like, it's good you're talking. And I said, well, you'll have to see it in 2 years. I mean, that's what I can tell you. You'll have to see it in 2 years or whatever. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. I'm not gonna sit here and promise the world and that we're gonna be able to fix everything overnight, because it is a complex issue that goes beyond the police department. You know, when you look at the arrest statistics of the county jail, Salt Lake City's arresting over 30%, and over 30% of the people housed in the county jail are Salt Lake City cases. That's not enough for you. I hear you. And it's not enough for me neither. We're gonna keep at it. We've got to activate the other parts of the criminal justice system, the judges, and that's what I was up at the state capitol talking about tonight. We have legislators that are looking closely at the courts, but we want to be active over here and we want to help. And, you know, hopefully you're seeing some improvements. Is it perfect? Probably not. And we got work to do with the RVs. We got work to do in these parks. We do. So, you know, all I can say
Great,
is,
and
yeah.
well, I was just going to say, well, speaking of not being a sprint, we really appreciate Chief Fred, you coming in and speaking with us. But this is just the first of many times we're going to be able to interact with you. I'm sure if we could, I mean, if we go around qualms with the neighborhood, we go around forever, but we appreciate if anyone else has things that they had dying that they really wanted to ask Chief Fred, feel free to, I don't know, do you have a liaison or someone that they should reach out to connect with, Detective Oliver, or just
Matter
someone?
of Oliver, probably your best points of contact, but I'll give you my phone number too. Like, it's okay to call me too.
Absolutely.
Detective Oliver relieved, you weren't in the hot seat for a while.
It's okay, you know what? I always put myself in your shoes. And if the things that I'm hearing happening to you were happening to me, I'd be just as upset. And that's where I always try to do, is put myself in the shoes of the residents and how you're feeling. And it's okay. I can take the tough questions. I promise you, I'm dedicated to helping on this, but it's gonna take all of us together. It's not gonna be one person that can fix this. But I'll be in the fight with all of you. I will.
What's your number?
Great.
435-669-7926.
I really appreciate the effort that you're making. I know that sometimes politically, you're limited to what you can do. I've reached out to Andrew Johnston. I've been disappointed. He was messaging up there. I've been disappointed with the results that he's been in for like 4 years. And I haven't seen the results that I would like to see with what he's been doing to try to make a difference with Salt Lake City politically, with the homeless. And it kind of bothers me. And I've talked to Wayne Niederhauser about that, because I'm concerned that Salt Lake City is falling short in some areas in supporting you people and doing your job.
Well, I feel like the mayor is, I wouldn't have taken the job if I didn't feel like the mayor was committed to public safety and committed and supportive of what we're gonna need to do as a police department to help keep the city safe. So I feel like she's on board and supportive so far. It's been, you know, just almost 3 months, not quite. And I feel like we're gonna be able to do what we need to do to get this, you know, to get this safety up in the city, to help all of you feeling safer. But, you know, I don't want to sit here and promise we're gonna have it done in a year. It's gonna take a little bit of time. But I can promise you we'll stay on it.
Great. And speaking of time, we need to get rolling. We had a lot more on the meeting agenda. So we thank you again, Chief Fred, for coming out. We appreciate you taking the time and, you know, caring about us here at Poplar Grove. And we are supportive of the changes that will be hopefully happening. Next up, we just wanted to roll on. I don't think we have anyone from the legislature here, but that would be aware of what's going on. That's great. We'll move on. Alicia from the mayor's office is unable to be with us today, but she did give us a whole set of slides. We'll just kind of roll through these kind of quickly just so that we could, and then we'll have some time with Alejandro if he needs to elaborate on anything after that. But if you have any questions or concerns about any of these things, Alicia's information will be in our recap email as well. And we will you'll be able to reach out directly to her. We wanted to make sure you knew about the Love Your Block grant that's going on. Or was there someone else from the mayor's office there that was supposed to be presenting? I don't know. Was that?
Not yet.
No, you're good.
Okay, great. So we just want to let you know the Love Your Block grant is a great localized community grant. It closes this week on the 31st. So if you have a small project up to $2,000 in grant money, please check that out. Look at Love Your Block SLC, you'll find the links for stuff there on the mayor's website. Open Streets downtown is opening up in June. So every Friday and Saturday in June, there'll be some great events going on. I'm pretty sure, Peter, are you still involved with that, or you were involved in previous years?
I am still involved in that, yeah.
Great. So do you want to speak for just a second about that?
I would love to. Thank you for the opportunity. Hi, everybody. My name is Peter Mikowski. I'm also with Salt Lake City's Department of Economic Development, and we are hosting Open Streets this year. Fridays and Saturdays in June, all four Fridays and Saturdays from 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. where we're shutting down Main Street cars and programming the street with artists and performers and all kinds of activities for people of all ages. It just so happens that our weekends are lining up with Pride Festival and the Arts Festival, the X Games, and the Blues Festival that are already happening downtown. So there'll already be a lot happening, but it's an opportunity for the community to come down to Main Street and experience downtown in kind of a cool, different way. A lot of the restaurants will have outdoor patios and stuff for people to enjoy. So yeah, we're looking forward to getting it kicked off. I'm really looking forward to getting it kicked off, and looking forward to see you all down there. It's free, so right now.
Awesome. Thanks, Peter. We also want to mention from the mayor's office is that the mayor's budget proposal has been put out. They're having some meetings about that coming up. The first one already happened on the 20th, and there's another one happening on Tuesday, June 3rd. Again, we can get into the nitty gritty of that, but I mean, well, no, I can't. Alicia, I'm sure could, but we're just gonna mention that it exists. If you care, please tune in. There's a lot of detailed information that is there. There's a highlight on the next slide of just sort of the big things that are going on. But the budget works, basically the mayor prepares it, the draft gets put forward, it's currently in review, and then the city council has time to adjust that. So if you have concerns or thoughts, make sure you let your voice be heard. Moving on, there's also the East-West Connection Study going on. That's a 2-year process that has several events and different groups that are going on. Just make sure you put that on your radar if you have input. I know at least one person from the community council board is on that survey group. And so they're trying to explore options for making better connectivity between the east and west of Salt Lake City. There's also a notice that went out about, and actually I got this myself in our utility, my utility bill, but the city is just trying to make another push about avoiding artificial turf because it's against city code in front yards and in certain parts of the yard. If you want more information on that, you can visit slc.gov/artificial-turf, where it gives you some more information about that. And then once again, a reminder that Alicia is the contact person. So if you had any questions about these sections, you can reach out directly to her, or if you have feedback for the mayor's office. And I think that's one thing to remember is who's in charge of what. So, you know, if there's crime stuff, that's Chief Fred, but if there's other sort of city ordinance stuff, it would either be Alejandro for city council or it would be Alicia to connect with the mayor's office. But she's a great resource for that. And speaking of Alejandro, I think you're there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, excited to have you there. You have the floor for a minute or two if you have any updates or anything you'd like to share.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I look better in person, I think. No, thank you for having me. We're discussing the budget right now. We have 1 to 2 meetings a week. I have a meeting tomorrow to discuss the budget again. The work sessions are long, tedious, and going to each department. Internally, we also have meetings offline and small group meetings. Probably have 10 hours of meetings every week just beyond the meeting. So just to give you an idea of the level of piecing and trying to dig into the actual budget and trying to understand what we're doing with the money and why it's important to be accountable to all of us, taxpayers. The budget is $500 million for the general budget. If you add all the different pieces of the equation, we are up to $2.2 billion. That's the airport and public utilities and all of these other gigantic pieces of the equation. But we spend a ton of time on the main budget for the general budget, which is funded by sales taxes and your property taxes. And as you probably saw, there is some adjustments on some of the rates that some of the departments are asking for. We're trying to figure out if it's appropriate or not. I'm talking about justice, criminal justice and homelessness and police department. And I want to say, I don't think that politically we have an issue in Salt Lake City as far as the law and as far as the funding. The police department budget has increased every year for a decade. I mean, it has never reduced. We're always putting more money into it. Now, do we think that that is the only place that we need to put money on? No, we're putting money on alternative responses, because we realize that not everybody, needs a police officer, to respond. So we know that we created a chat team with the fire department, which is alternative responses to the issues, which ultimately frees police time to deal with other types of situations. But the situation here is not about, and let me reframe it, because we created a new squadron for the Jordan River Police Department. That was not a thing that the mayor recommended last year, but Victoria and I added it to the budget because we were like, we need more eyes here, and we need dedicated eyes on the trail. Now, I love your idea as far as activating and reclaiming the space. I'm trying to figure out if we can actually do a Jordan River festival. And try to bring back families to the river, and I will contend to the idea that it needs to be safe. We need to reclaim the space. When there is people on there, the criminal element tends to go away because they don't want to do that. They don't want to have so many eyes. They want to hide. They want to be in these corners. There is something to do there. We have money in different departments that could potentially allocate into that. We're working on that. This is from the council side, try to figure out how to piece it together. We've been trying to do that in other parts of the city, and it's worked. I mean, now, as far as results and as far as what the city does, let me say this, we have a lot to improve. Every place we looked at, there's places to improve. It's almost like when I look at my house very carefully, I'm like, oh gosh, and I have a 120-year-old house. There's a lot, many of you have old houses here. You know how much work it is. The more that you look, the more that you find. Same thing here. We're not perfect by any chance of the imagination, but there's a lot to improve. But there is a lot put on Salt Lake City alone. And this is the case that we really need to make. It doesn't mean that we should not hold our elected officials, our public servants, our administration accountable. And it doesn't mean that we should not say our piece, because we should say our piece even more. But the state is putting pressure on Salt Lake City on an issue that is beyond Salt Lake City. This is not a Salt Lake City failure, how they like to frame it. So I really want to make sure that when we are talking amongst ourselves, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't improve. There is a policy issues, RV, South Salt Lake is doing, I should cut you off. South Salt Lake is doing something interesting. You should look into what South Salt Lake City does with RVs. But there's a lot of, research that we've been doing in the West Side about this. There's a lot of things. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't keep on pushing ourselves to do better. But the issue is bigger than Salt Lake City. About 10% almost of the general budget, in one way or another, goes into homelessness of Salt Lake City residents. So your taxes and our taxes, and how much of the West Jordan, general budget goes into, going into homelessness, right? And are the people that are in our streets, those on shelter, only Salt Lake City residents? And we know that that's not true. The state actually is tracking that now. The state is tracking where they graduated from high school to try to get an idea. The majority of them are not from Salt Lake, So It doesn't mean that they're not our problem, you know, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be invested in trying to solve this issue, but we really need to have the state actually help us. And that is what we need to put pressure on. So, and I really appreciate the new chief for trying to help our legislators to say, Salt Lake City is sucking, they're not enforcing the laws. That is not true. We are trying to triage, you know, the crimes and the crime responses and, you know, what is more urgent right now to respond to when we have so many calls for service. And, you know, is the person having a mental breakdown in the street, you know, as urgent as someone, you know, being attacked, right? And all these calls, all of those are urgent. And the person that has seen this, you know, walking by a person having a mental breakdown is probably saying, this is urgent, but there is another call on the queue that is probably maybe a little more urgent. And that is something that is unfair, sincerely. It's unfair to our officers. It's unfair to all of you as residents of the city that we are paying so much money and still being blamed for the problem. So we really need to shift this to the state, not that we shouldn't do better. We need to, and we're gonna be working on that. But the state needs to put the money where their mouth is. You know, they gave a tax break last year, almost $300 million to all of us. $50 in the average salary for all of us a year, $50. What could the state have done with 250, almost $300 million on the issue of homelessness and criminal justice reform and, you know, on shelter beds and treatment? Instead, they gave us all $50. Thank you. I prefer, you know, I will, you know, sacrifice my $50 I didn't have to actually have a solution for this. And, you know, they claim that they're helping us by doing that, and they're not. And it's easy to point at us and say they are to blame. And they threatened this year on the legislature to take over the police department. Go at it, have it. You know, that's not what I should say to them. You know, but sincerely, I told them. I sincerely was out of it. That's why I didn't show up my face at the legislature, because I was angry. You know, and many of them, I know them better than that. But when they are in public, they are different people. But they wanted to take over the police department with the money, right? Just go at it, have it, solve it. You know, and if they think they can solve it, you know, but they're not going to, because they cannot solve it, because it's bigger than Salt Lake City alone. The criminal justice system needs to reform. You know, the jail needs more beds. You know, the voters unfortunately didn't approve that. The state didn't put money to expand the jail. So we have all of these pieces that are not there, and yet Salt Lake City ultimately is to blame for everything. Again, not to say that we still have pieces to improve. But this is also not isolated to Salt Lake. This is happening across the nation. You know, I happen to travel for my other job, and I see it in every jurisdiction in the country almost, and it happens in every major city. It happens to be the blame that Salt Lake City, you know, the major city is for some reason, we don't want to solve it. We really want to live like this. And I live in your neighborhood too, right? So I live by North Temple. I know what I'm talking about. Why wouldn't we want to solve it?
You have somebody walk into your house.
Yes, I have someone walk inside my house. So I sincerely, I tell you from the bottom of my heart, we really need the pressure where it needs to go. And keep the pressure at us, keep the pressure at the municipality that, you know, is responding and working. I will say half of our time is dealing with issues related to this. You know, that is unfair. And we need the legislature to hear us, because it's easy for them politically to point at us and say they are the ones. So again, sorry for that tangent, because I'm very passionate about this issue, because it's really very frustrating that we really try so hard to solve this issue with money that we don't have. You know, we really don't have. And by the way, the criminal justice system, another unfunded mandate from the state has mandated the states, like the Supreme Court, to give indigent defense, to fund indigent defense. All those that cannot afford a lawyer are entitled to a lawyer. It's a, you know, it's a pillar of our country. And the country has given this mandate to the state to fund. What the state did, give it to the counties without money. And then what the counties do, give it to the cities without money. So now we have a problem with our justice system right now. They need more money. The DA needs more money. The legal defender association needs more money. They need about $8 million between this whole process. We don't have $8 million. We're not gonna give them $8 million this year. We have a very flat budget. One of the most boring budgets you're gonna see is this one. Because of the uncertainty in the country, the sales taxes are flattening. We have, the tariffs and the cost of building things are hurting our city. So we have a very, very flat budget. And yet we have the state doing things in their own space without giving us the resources we need to tackle this. I think if the state is not picking up the bill like they should, that maybe next year we're gonna have to have a tax increase, which is very frustrating, because we are subsidizing the more people that we send to jail. That means that the legal defender associations have an increased workload. It means that the district attorney has an increased workload, and who pays the bill? Yet all of us again, So even when we do good, we have a bigger bill. So, and they're not paying for anything. They're not helping us in any way. So all of these pieces are important and they're complicated. Again, I want you to channel a little bit of that frustration, even just a little bit, to the state legislators. And not only channel them to ours, Representative Hollins and Angela and Luz. There are great legislators that represent this area. They live in these neighborhoods. They know what we're talking about. Talk to the other ones too. Talk to the other ones that are not seeing it, and they choose not to see it. So I hope that my tangent wasn't too far and too out there. But I don't know how much time I let the chair decide if there's a question. If not, I'm gonna be here for.
Are there any questions? Daniel had to step out, so I'll be running.
Okay, I have two questions or comments.
Yeah.
I talked with Dwayne Niederhauser today, and he shared with me the problems with getting money from the legislature.
Yeah, he suggested,
And-
he asked for
And he
money.
says that they're depending on the cities and the counties right now to pick up the slack because there is no state money.
But there is money. They gave us a break last year. A
So
$300 million break.
that's what he's telling me.
Yes.
So I'm very educated on this subject. It ain't like I just wandered in.
I know.
So I talked to these state people that the governor's appointed. I talk to your mayor's office quite frequently, and what they tell me is we don't have the bandwidth to handle this homeless problem.
We don't.
So
It's true.
unfortunately, our police department is overwhelmed with this problem that they're having a hard time with.
That's correct. Framework, for 2 or 3 years in a row, the state has given us tax breaks. Last year was almost $300 million. So, and the year before it was a little bigger, actually. So they choose not to have money because they don't want to. I mean, they could go back again and raise that, 0.01% on the sales taxes they gave us last year and have $300 million again and tackle this issue.
So
Now,
what you're telling me is that I'm getting inaccurate information.
no, Wayne Niederhauser actually asked the legislature for funding and they didn't fund it.
So he's telling the truth that he's trying to get the funding, but they're not giving
The
it.
governor's recommended budget, which is the same process that we follow, he recommends a budget for the administration, the legislature pulls it apart, funds pieces or changes it. The governor requested funding for the process that Wayne works for the administration, for the governor, requested that funding, the legislature chose not to.
But on a positive note, our police chief took the governor out today and showed him what we're looking at and showed him some things. And he's trying to educate him on what we're doing. So he's doing some positive things.
I'm grateful and thankful. I mean, I have called the chief and I feel bad because again, you guys got his number, please use it wisely. And I choose myself to use it wisely. But he's shown, and we walked my neighborhood, we walked North Temple, we walked like some of the areas, he's everywhere, he really cares about this. And I hope that you never, I mean, you choose, but we really care. He has shown the face that he really cares, and the officers do. If you talk to all of the officers, they really wish they could solve this issue. And Wayne is doing an incredible work.
I'm gonna work on getting some of our key legislators out here to ride with me. We have This chief of staff for Speaker Schultz is scheduled to come out with me next month. We're gonna go around, show them some of the problems here on the west side. We're gonna keep getting those key legislators out here on the ground. They'll come out with me and we'll get them out. So we'll keep working.
Our chief has an incredible relationship because of his track record and work he's done for the state. He's well respected and liked, and his work is gold. And you know, the chief cannot be he will not say things that are not true to them, and they know that. And I hope that trust is built again between the state and the city. And you know, not only our city that are struggling with this, but again, we get $2 million in money from the state to help us with police. We've spent $25 million in police just on that. We get two from the state. So you know, Salsa Lake actually gets more than us. By the way, Salsa Lake,
Million.
yeah, Salsa Lake is this big. I mean, our neighborhood is, you know, Poplar over here is bigger than Salsa Lake. Just to give you an idea.
do hold the jail.
Yes, but you know, but I'm saying, so there is a lot of inequities in the system that politics get in the middle of it. And I want to make sure that we're channeling these frustrations correctly. Again, we all public servants and we should be part of this and we should all listen and hear it. But there is a bigger force here that is not active. And Wayne is an incredible human and he's doing God's work. But the legislators are the ones who need to actually put their money where their mouth is, and they haven't yet fully. They're moving towards, and I have a great deal of respect for many of them that are working on a campus, homeless campus, a big shelter. Remember, they went away from that.
Another problem.
They're like going away from it back and forth, but they're doing something about this now. They're like,
But they're gonna put that over here.
they're thinking about multiple places, 300 beds or so, or bigger even, no?
Like
It's-
thousands.
Oh, yes, you're right. It's a bigger one. I'm probably 2 projects behind on my.
But depending on the funding, they might have to start with small, you know, I mean, we don't know if they're gonna do that.
Is the site they're still looking at, that is on the west side, like closer to the airport?
That's correct.
It's,
2200 north.
yeah,
The state is looking into that. Wayne has like had the trouble finding a piece of land without money almost. I mean, like he is like, solve this problem. They gave this the task to the poor man, and without any funding. And so he's trying to find UDOT land in the side of the freeway and another random piece of land. What did the city owns? What other cities own? So he's done probably 2 years of research trying to figure it out and swap land. And so apparently that we haven't been briefed officially on that. But that has been the land that I heard about a little bit.
And then the other thing I wanted to talk about with the budget was, there's been quite a rate increase with the utilities and that's 2 different departments, sustainability and the water bill. And so with sustainability, that seems to be the major increase with the garbage can going from $30 to $36. The problem that I see is the heat program used to provide help to people that were struggling or having a hardship situation, with trying to get help with their water bill. And I mean, the Salvation Army provides a couple of $100 a year, which is helpful, but the heat program used to provide a lot more. Well, that's no longer available. And so there's people that either don't have an income, have a fixed income, or they're in a hardship situation where they need some type of a program or assistance with trying to get assistance with their water bill. And I don't know if I emailed you about that, but that's my concern about these rate increases. I understand they're probably gonna happen, obviously, but what about the people that are struggling with that?
No, sincerely, let's go back to the point that we made before, right? Like Salt Lake City is paying not only, a big chunk of the bill on homelessness that we could be using for all the things, right? Like other cities do, but we also have an infrastructure. We have the oldest water infrastructure in the state, right? Where, we provide water to half this valley almost, right? Like,
And it's inexpensive compared to other areas.
yeah, we are trying to like keep up with all this, like, we're rebuilding this like gigantic pipeline from Utah County to here. I mean, like, we are, so these challenges are very heavily on Salt Lake City because of its age and all of these pieces. And it really is problematic how our neighbors are just paying so much more than we should, right? Because of the pressures that Salt Lake City has. Sincerely this year, especially this year and the next year, and we started last year, we're trying to trim as much as we can, and ask the hard questions. Do we really need this program right now, considering the need? As far as the water go, some of those that gigantic adjustment that the water bill made, it should stabilize. It was for a short period of time. It should calm down, which is a good thing. But some of the pressures of inflation and so forth have impacted the city as well. So they are trying to make sense of this fees. So I much like the circuit breaker in the county, the program to lower seniors and those that have no income to pay for taxes, for the property taxes. It's a circuit breaker program in the county. Salt Lake City probably should develop a little bit more of a program, but the challenge is if you develop this program too strongly, the department will tell you, well, we need to increase everybody else's a little bit more, right? And but those are questions that we definitely need to be asking. So we'll be looking at that when we're discussing the conversations with the department.
Thank you.
Nigel, do you have a comment before we move on?
I had a question, and Chief Red is trying to answer this too, but about the new mental health center on 33rd South, is that improving the situation for everybody?
I mean, that was if you guys don't know, the state, the county, the hospital built, I mean, philanthropic donors built finally after, the county been working on this for, long time. I think they started working on that when I was an intern in the county, long time ago. I mean, so finally it broke ground. So people now, the police department, and not only police department, but like ourselves, right? Like, our family members, 24 hours, 24/7. If the police department can take someone there when they don't necessarily belong in the jail. I have not seen data yet. I don't know if that's is available.
It opened the 1st of April.
Yeah. So
I've asked for that data and they're a new operation, so they're figuring out how they can collect it and provide it back to us. We have had some individuals taken there. And we're gonna continue to educate our officers and encourage them, but I haven't got the data back. We've asked for it. How often are Salt Lake City officers actually using it? What are the outcomes? I don't have that back, but I've requested it.
Thank you.
The hope is that it does, right? Like, and that we prove this concept, that some people just don't belong in jail, but they belong in a place. They need to be assessed and stabilized so they can make a decision and whatnot.
That's one of those boxes I was talking about. It's drugs or addiction here, it's mental crisis.
Yeah.
It's either the emergency departments or there. That's the two places we're educating our officers.
Budget is happening right now, so please, please send messages. Again, the fact that sometimes I don't respond doesn't mean that I'm not reading it or my liaison is not like helping me, sort through them. We read, pretty much everything that comes into, there's a lot of random emails that come in from automatic lists that I get in. I don't know how, but I'm always unsubscribing to things, but we read all the comments. There's staff that just sorts through them, puts them together by topic, by day. I mean, like, we really have all the resources. So if there's something that really is happening in your neighborhood that you see, CIP is going to open again soon, where you can choose some small projects in your neighborhood. In the last 3 years, I was lucky with my council colleagues that we funded the most of the CIP on the west side than ever. And some of those, you're gonna start seeing them more and more. Some of the traffic calming situations that you saw, but some big infrastructure coming into the west side. It takes like about 3 or 4 years. By the time I'm gone from the city council, you're gonna see all the construction. So ask for those things now. So it's gonna open in a few months. I probably will send a message to make sure that if you have an idea, we'll love to help you submit that. I cannot really help you, but someone can.
All right, thank you, Councilman. We appreciate that. We'll look forward to that. We'll keep moving forward. Swartzen Unity Center, usually Ricky updates us there. Anyone from the other side village here to report? I know they've broken ground on some of their bigger facilities, their shop and stuff. I think that's going through. NeighborWorks, neighborhood house again. Grateful to be here.
Thanks.
Anyone else have a?
Is it Dave from NeighborWorks
Oh, Dave?
online?
Did you have any-
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I'll give you a couple short things. We have a celebration come up here soon, which is called NeighborWorks Week. And we're gonna be providing a series of free 30-minute in-person workshops designed to empower and support our community. And what those four workshops are going to be is the free credit score reporting, down payment assistance, financial education in English and Spanish, and then I will be personally doing a home improvement tips. So again, those are coming up on June 10th and 11th. You can go onto our website and sign up for those classes, for those workshops. Next, we have a whole variety for 6 months long of different kinds of virtual financial training workshops. It surrounds like savings and spending plans. And so same thing, you can go onto our website and sign up for those. And then our annual Paint Your Heart Out is coming up here in August. And those applications are online. If you know somebody that needs their house painted, needs a fresh coat of paint, or if you want to nominate somebody and sign them up for that online, then we're accepting applications for that. And we're looking for about 15 houses to paint at no cost to the person whose house we're going to paint. And we've been doing that for close to 50 years. So we're excited to do that again this year. And then starting in the latter part of July, August, we'll have some more rehab grants funding available. And those are $25,000 grants. The same thing, you can go on to our website and get signed up for those. So we're out of the money right now, but again, we should have that money mid-July to late August. And then lastly is our YouthWorks program, the summer program. We're looking to interview some more students for that. It starts next week, and I think our class is only about half full. Again, that's for students 14 to 18. It's a paid program. So if you have any students or high school students that you know that might want to be interested in that, have them go online and sign up and apply for that. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
Well, I just wanted to say, I really appreciate this program and how much a difference it's makes for people like me. You know, I've been able to get $25,000 worth of work done on my house that I wouldn't have been able to get otherwise. And so these programs that this neighborhood works provides are really helpful for everybody and are there for everybody to take advantage of.
Indeed. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Brian. Thanks for saying that. Appreciate it.
Into some of our community updates, the Harp Lab Nature VR project. What's going on?
Older adults, they're looking to recruit older adults who need to be out in nature more. They have a VR project. There's the sign up information. It's all this, and that's just a video that's on their website. Sounds dangerous.
What about younger adults that need to be in nature more?
Also, what about care centers and places where there are folks who have mobility issues? I'm sure they'd appreciate knowing more about VR programs like this.
Yeah, we'll get that information out. Cool. Did you want to watch through this? Or?
No.
Okay. Again, anyone who wants to add anything, they can email us or go to the website and find this. We'll put a lot of this information there for follow-up. There is this Saturday a Celebrate at the Confluence Festival at the Three Creeks Confluence Park, put on by the Seven Canyons Trust. It will be I checked this out earlier. There's going to be some food trucks, some drinking options, and you can celebrate there.
Till 8.
Yeah, afternoon, 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. Coming up, there is a park performance Saturday, June 14th at Poplar Grove Park. We'll have some local musicians play for that. So invite your friends there. West Side Dance, Charlotte Five, the students on piano, and Paul Borough, the singer-songwriter. 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. More info there is parkperformances.org. Groom the Grove community celebrations coming up. It's Saturday, September 27th. So there'll be additional information coming about that. We'll try to get that out to the community. We'll have some more banners up and make sure everything's smooth there. And thanks to Neighborhood House for hosting us here. We really appreciate that. We love this space, love this opportunity to meet here. Isabel? Speaking of Neighborhood House.
That I decided I want to have. When I woke up this morning, I had a feeling that I forgot to add this. Is there another slide after this that I sent?
I don't.
No, okay, I knew that I didn't. So if everyone wants to take a slide and pass it, on June 13th, which is 2 weeks, on Friday will be 2 weeks, we're having our annual summer celebration event. So it's open to the community and our clients. So we'll be having 30 organizations that will be tabling. We'll have Prevent Child Abuse Utah, Craft Lake City, all sorts of fun organizations coming. The event will be from 4 to 6 p.m., but we need lots of volunteers. So if anybody wants to come, there's different shifts from 12 to about 7 p.m. That QR code shows the different volunteer shifts we have and just more information if you just want to join the fun. It's Camp Summer Celebration, so there's going to be bouncy houses and relay races and all the camp things, face painters. So I'm sure you all want to get a good spoon. But we would love to have you there as a volunteer or just as a community member. So if you don't want the flyer, don't throw it away. Just give it to a friend. Put it somewhere. But that's all. Thank you guys.
That's all. And anyone who wants to volunteer here has an opportunity. Austin, the community development organizations.
Can we pull up the slides?
Yes.
Thanks. Hey, everybody, where should I stand for the video?
Just
where?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, I'm Austin Taylor. I'm with the city's now named Community Reinvestment Agency. It's called the Redevelopment Agency before. Raise your hand if you remember the 3% interest rate mortgage. Those were good times, right? Those were good times. Well, it's back through our ADU construction loan program. So if you click to the next slide, well, let's just skip this thing. So we have about $3 million that we will be lending out in construction loans for West Side residents who want to build an accessory dwelling unit. Now, an ADU is basically an apartment that's on your lot with your single family home. It can be a basement, it can be attached, it can be detached. And I have two different images here on our map. So in the orange area, it's called our 9-line project area. It covers parts of Poplar Grove. We have $1.9 million available to residents living there. And if you're outside of it, but still living on the west side, we have $1 million available. It's up to $200,000 per applicant. Next slide. So these are the loan terms. I'm gonna glance through them really quickly. So we have up to $200,000 per applicant. It's a construction loan to build an ADU. The interest rate is fixed at 3%. The amortization is 30 years. like your typical home mortgage. And the payoff period is 5 years with a 5-year extension option afterwards. So that means is at the 5th year, you'd likely refinance your home to pay off this ADU loan, or you could extend it to that 10th year. But 3% interest rate is really great there. Let's go to the next slide. There are some affordability requirements with this program, but they're very easy to meet. So the first is if your household makes 80% of area median income or less, and for a family of 4, that's about $80,000, then you can rent at any rate to any person. If your household makes more than that amount, then your rent will be restricted to 80% of area median income. And that's actually a pretty high rent. If you look at it, that rent is about $1,600. I think it'd be hard to rent an ADU for $1,600 anyways. So it's not very restricted, to be honest. Next slide. I just ran the numbers for, let's say you pulled a full $200,000 amount out of this to build like the best backyard ADU with the garage. And then you put 10% down, you had that 3% interest rate. Let's say you're renting at $1,250 a month, which is what I think would be the going rate for a 1-bedroom ADU back here. You know, you're factoring in some vacancy, you're factoring in some maintenance costs. You're still cash flowing at about $150 a month. And so this is a very, even if you're pulling that full amount, you can pay this loan payment pretty easily. And so it's a great deal. If you live in this area and you're interested in building an ADU, this is a great time to take an opportunity to get this 3% interest rate ADU mortgage.
Are there provisions on that keep it to be a long-term rental versus any kind of short-term rentals or Airbnbs?
Yeah, so in Salt Lake City, you can't do short-term rentals.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't manage the enforcement of that. My department doesn't do anything.
Nobody there, just.
Yeah, I don't.
Right.
But we're doing better at it. We're doing better at it. Yeah, sorry. Code enforcement has new software that circumvents state law that in some ways legally that, allows them to know where those are. So, yeah, it's challenging because state law prohibits us from enforcing against them, even if we have, ordinances against them.
They don't let you look at them.
They don't let us look at it, yes. Anyway, sorry.
You're good.
So all those buildings downtown that are renting out for, United States, all those buildings that's not supposed to be happening.
So you can do short-term rentals and zone for the law of hotels. And in the downtown, you can have hotels. But in your guys' area where there's a lot of R1 zoning, you can't build a hotel in R1 zoning, it's not allowed. So short-term rentals are generally not allowed in this area. Yeah, a lot of new multifamily has been filling vacancies by trying to do short-term rentals, but yeah, we'll see if it works out.
It's working great for everybody.
Yeah.
People getting houses rented.
Yeah, so these final steps, the program is not yet 100% launched. There is an online application more or less on the CDCU website. That's Community Development Corporation of Utah. So go on there, input your information, and when the program is live, they'll give you a final application that you can fill out to take advantage of this loan. We think within 1 or 2 months, this program will be live and you can apply for the loan. So do you have any questions about this?
Does it have a standard job, like a W-2?
That's more of a CDCU question. There is a debt to income ratio that they're looking for, so they'll be looking through your tax returns, your income statements. They do want to see that you can pay this if you didn't have a renter.
And is it 30 years? You said 5 years or 10-year payout, you said 30 years.
So it's like it's a balloon.
Exactly. So 30 years is the amortization, but there is a balloon payment, which means at the end of that 5th year or 10th year, you have to pay the loan balance in full. And so the idea behind that is that people will refinance their existing mortgage And the added value of the ADU can cover the entire 2 mortgages that you'll have at that point. That's the goal. So it is taking on more debt.
What's gambling?
It is, but a lot of people will be confident if they can get the added value from the rent and from the additional square footage of the ADU, it'll raise their property value and cover there.
Not gonna rent. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, rents, the demand for rents are very high right now.
No, I'm saying, what if my mother-in-law lived in there? She's not gonna rent it.
Yeah, so that's different at that
Yeah,
point.
she doesn't have to buy it, we don't have to like keep her in a different place. I mean, this program, this program, as the city is working very hard. I mean, you know, we pushed for this to happen, by the way, this is a win for the west side. Inside neighborhoods, single family home neighborhoods, and in neighborhoods that have the incomes, they're able to do this, use the changes and ordinances that we have made. But because of, you know, we're a working class neighborhood, many of our neighbors cannot take advantage of the changes we made. This is a way of like keeping residents here, keeping us aging in place, keeping our neighborhoods like this, you know, with us. I mean, it's mostly you because I sort of, you know, in some ways I was one of the newer. But the generations that build these neighborhoods should stay here and be able to reap the benefits of this. So again, the CRA has done an incredible amount of work to research this and make it affordable. So thank you.
Yeah, and I'll say just to wrap this up, you're not gonna find another loan like this out there. This is the only ADU construction loan that just depends on the ADU. Like you don't have to refinance your existing mortgage at the beginning. You don't have to do a home equity line of credit. The interest rate of 3% is unheard of now.
Are there any restrictions? Can it be used for an internal one or a detached one?
Either one of those.
Okay.
Yeah, either one. Last budget.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and if
so
you,
so there's a large set of the west side that's not included in this.
no, so there, I have 2 maps. Here, can you go to the right one?
Yep.
So anything that's gray shaded, there's $1 million available. Anything that's orange shaded, we have 1.9. That all comes down to how the property tax gets collected within the RDA.
Well, that was also negotiated between the council members and, you know, but
Yeah,
but the west side qualifies for it.
Yeah, I'm across the street from.
So you're talking about less than 20.
Right across the street.
yeah. Like 15, 20. Yeah. And then just lastly, you know, we own that site on 1410 West Indiana Avenue. And you received a presentation from developers that were proposing, you know, Crossroads Urban Center with Peter Groom. So they were selected as the developers. They'll come back sometime soon, but if you remember, their proposal is for them to sell thrift store and then vacate food pantry, move both of those onto a new building in our site, and then also build space for a restaurant, leasable space, like 2,000 square feet for a restaurant. So they were selected as the developer. And so if you've seen any, you know, pre-construction work out there, we've been testing soils and making sure that the land can hold the building that they're proposing. But we're in a negotiation process with them. It's gonna take a while. They have to raise the money and all that, but they were selected as the developers on that site, just so you know. Okay. That's it. Thanks.
Jason, I think you're actually right here. So I think Jason does
Yeah. I'm
squeak,
right across the
squeak in.
street.
I think, yeah, you're in this little island
Well,
here.
let's move that.
Garth,
Hi everyone, I'm Garth Franklin. Oh, perfect, you have photos. Yeah, so I build in the Granary District, about 5 blocks east of here. I've been there for about a decade and I've been working on beautifying the area. I built Huda, a giant wooden troll over there. I don't know if you've seen him. And then a year ago, there was funding for the Open Streets program for another art piece. So I partnered with Alec.
Yeah, so I own a small design consultancy firm that focuses a lot on steel and custom CAD design essentially, and so I worked with Garth to help develop this and make it manufacturable. He came to me with an idea to build the Kosmoceratops because it's on the City Hall building downtown. It's one of the only dinosaurs that's only been found in Utah. And he had a little toy model. And that was pretty much all we had to go off, because there aren't a lot of images of this or anything like that. So we were able to 3D scan it and make it pretty true to life of the actual size it would have been. And then he was able to clad it with steel and found objects from the Granary District and kind of incorporate parts of the local community into the sculpture.
Yeah, so we bring it up because we have a new roundabout in Poplar Grove. And I was reached out to last week about potentially placing Kosmo in this new roundabout. So kind of my idea with Kosmo that it was he would always go in the roundabouts. He's kind of sharp and metal and not really meant for a playground or something. So it goes really well in a roundabout. And with the Open Streets program, they're going to put a roundabout at 5th West and 7th South. But that's kind of gridlock, probably pretty slow moving. It's going to be expensive. So we're definitely looking for a home for Kosmo. So I guess I came down here just to kind of hear some input about how you guys are feeling, like what's the story behind this roundabout and what you'd like to see.
So can I say something? Okay, I'm Karen.
Okay, great to meet you, Karen.
And how this came about is, we had a meeting, last week with, Renato. And he suggested that we put your Kosmos in the roundabout. We were originally talking about the mural on the precinct, okay? And that's, anyway, we're not gonna go there tonight, but anyway, we were talking about that. And then he said, what about if you put Kosmos in your roundabout? And, you know, originally, and I think the whole community really at some point wants a peacock there. But that's gonna take a while because if we put in a CIP for that, it could be years down the road. So, and if you ever get your roundabout in the granary, you obviously wanna put this there, right? So our thought is that as a temporary home for Kosmos, we could put this in our roundabout.
Or there'll be other roundabouts. I like the idea of just keeping this here. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I've seen it over there.
I
and-
really love the peacock, so.
Right, there'll be other roundabouts. There'll be chances
Not
for
there,
this.
not there.
Yeah, so, and this is, in our minds, this is a temporary home for Kosmos. Okay, and so that you understand that, how temporary that becomes, I don't know. And then also Renato said, well, the only issue is money to move the thing, you know? And so then we were talking in our board meeting earlier in the week, and we decided that we would put in a Love Your Block grant for money to move Kosmos to our roundabout and to put some plantings in the roundabout. And so we'll submit that and we'll just see what happens.
Okay, how much is that?
To move it? Who knows? You have a truck, maybe we could use your truck.
We're experienced planters, we can help with planting.
That was part of it. We wanted some community engagement. And so part of the Love Your Block is to invite that. And so we would try to make it a community event and
Yeah.
even if it's just you as the community.
And what we're thinking is pairing that with Groove in the Grove. And so we do the planting during Groove in the Grove. And who knows, maybe even Kosmos, we can move Kosmos too.
Yeah, very cool. Well, let me add, and maybe you guys, I wasn't able to join on Sunday night, but what if, you know, we've been looking for this plan for peacocks, because the peacocks are a big deal in our neighborhood. And someone needs to build us peacocks. And, you know, I think that might be something we can work out in the future as that rotates, we could rotate it out and put a peacock and have them build peacocks for us if we determine that sort of style for peacocks or whatever it's determined. I like the temporary idea. It's cool. Until the granary's ready.
And then a ransom?
No.
Is that- To fund the peacock.
Yeah, you want the Triceratops, you gotta give us a peacock.
The ransom, yeah.
But I'm just saying, I think it's great, temporary, and cool. Well, I think a lot of people are really interested in the peacocks.
for sure.
So what if we do peacocks at all the new bus stations that have people baking in the sun on the asphalt and have like a little peacock tail? as the
Yeah.
stage? Have little flocks of peacocks down nice. For poetry.
Let me say that this piece of art, I don't know if you've seen it, you can drive, you know,
Yeah,
very close to
we
us.
walked to it.
I will go, you know, see it at my office, my other jobs, offices across the street. So I get to see it in satin that is not in that roundabout right there in the roundabout, you know. This is a red tape from its own city, yeah, it's their own city, which I'm frustrated about, but you will fall in love with that creature thing. I hope that we, you know, ultimately, you know, you guys can fight it out. I don't know how you want to do it, but you guys will love to have them and you may fall in love with them with time. And, but it's a great roundabout we built together with a CIP application that some of the neighbors ask for, you know, something there. So it's there. It's on the side of the road. I don't think it should be displayed. And it's built with many of the things from the granary district, the symbols to build the city, you know, the factories that were there, which is, you know, many of the workers that grew up here, work there. So even if it's temporary, ultimately that's not my decision, but I think you guys are gonna be happy, but ultimately you guys decide.
What is it requiring to anchor that?
Yeah, so great question. So I checked out the roundabout today, which does look like the perfect place
Does it fit?
for it. Yeah, the size, it fits really nicely to scale. Currently where he's on a cement slab and his feet are bolted into the ground, so there's no large ledge anchors. I do think if we moved him, I kind of have to check the numbers again, but like the cement pad in the circle is 12 feet. So we might actually end up fitting as is, which would be pretty great and it definitely would be move the easiest, but yeah, pretty much a cement pad and a place to bolt into.
Would it be okay to do sonotube bases, just so that it's not, you know, there's a footing, it's anchored,
Sure.
but the whole thing's not slab?
Yeah, I think so. Like even if we put like his back feet on like the slab that's existing and like a couple of sonotubes that would extend, because it's his feet, his front feet are higher than his back feet. There's some solutions and now we're supposed to be an engineer, so we probably can just find out what would be safe and what the weight requirements are. But I think moving forward, like my biggest thing was just hearing the community's input about it, because I would love Kosmo to have a home. We both would. I also know that it can be tricky to bring him and move him, where people might get attached to him, like what happened to the dinosaur and things like that. If there's a peacock coming, I think we'll be able to get it. But this is just really helpful for me to like understand what you're looking for. I do think that the Love Your Block, like the $2,000 would go far to pretty much disassembling him, because his head, his torso, his leg, they all disassemble and bolt apart. We can move them, luckily not too far, and reassemble them. I mean, I think the $2,000 would pretty much cover that for renting machinery and the labor to move him. And some plants and whatnot to kind of beautify his space. He used to live in the primordial swamps of Laramida. There's an inland sea 30 million years ago during the late Cretaceous, hence all the plant life that's inside, and to kind of show the difference between like this kind of like high mountain desert. It used to be like a swamp. Anyways, yeah, but I love the thought. So I think that, yeah, if whoever's in charge of applying for this grant looks like it's due in a few days, I can definitely help out. But I think that would be a really good first step. And if that does happen, it would be big for bringing Kosmo over if it's something the community would like. So.
How does everybody feel about it? I mean, we ultimately would like a
I
peacock.
can cry, but you know, it's okay.
You're concerned that it will be there forever?
This is our response to the well. This is gonna be cooler.
So we should definitely apply for a CIP for artwork for the roundabout. But I mean, look how long it took to get the roundabout once the CIP was approved. It was like 4 years.
It must.
And we don't want.
Yeah, this will be
just a
something
bunch of
in the
weeds in the
meantime.
Roundabout for 4 years.
Right, they'll get the roundabout, they're throwing out them all.
Sure.
Sorry.
Yeah, and I think
Apply for their round, and then they call for that.
Yep.
Thank you. I mean, I don't live in Poplar Grove, but you know, if they don't want it, we'll find a place in Fair Park, so.
great.
That will take Kosmo.
Wants it now.
I definitely encourage everyone to go take a look at him. He's at 5th West 7th South, kind of like kitty corner to the Slapwater Pizza there. on the developer who donated some money for the build. It's on his private property right now. So they're not getting kicked off like immediately, but it would be good to have a good place. And I think, you know, that traffic circle, that location would be really cool for Kosmo and hopefully for everyone looking around there. So really sense, you know, create a sense of place and like a relationship with that new roundabout, it would be cool. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Well, we will pursue the Love Your Block grant. We'll see where that goes.
Great.
Thanks
Okay.
for coming in tonight. We
Awesome.
appreciate that.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, this is really cool to get a glimpse of this, community in action. So,
Sure.
you know.
Okay, thanks for coming.
Of course.
Right, with that, that is our meeting for tonight.
Can I
We
make
have
a
one
comment
comment,
before
sure.
everybody leaves?
Yes.
As far as the Love Your Block grants go, I need to thank everybody who came and did the Love Your Block, love the Post Street Tot Lot. Talk about how beautiful it is and how people are using it 10 times more than they did before, just because we put in some paint on the concrete pillars, put in new benches and trees. And people are loving it and people are taking care of it besides just me.
And the city is mowing it.
And the city is mowing it more. Yes, absolutely. So I want to thank all the volunteers who came and helped. And that it does, when we put even into one little tiny park, our energy and our love, it can happen along the Jordan River. It can happen anywhere as long as we keep our focus on it. Thank you all for doing that.
It was a good event.
Good proposal.
Also, please be careful of the peacocks. One did get hit today and it has an injured leg, so kind of keep your eye open.
I mean, that's a good example. We fix up one park like that, it's used more. Think about
Yes.
what we could do along the river as well. I mean,
Exactly.
it's all solutions. We just need to propose that and work and follow up on those things, but we can do that. We're taking the next 2 months off of community council. We'll still meet as a board. And so if you have any concerns or anything, please let us know. We'll keep working on these proposals. We'll keep working with the city council and the state and the police and fire departments as well. So please let us know of any concerns and we'll do that. Otherwise, we'll see you in August and then in September as well for our Poplar Grove Group in the Grove. Thank you.
Thank you for being so willing to educate.
No, thank you for your comments.